What's up, everybody? So Shawn and I are here today, and Legal Rideshare has dropped a video. We haven't done one of these in a while, but they like it when we do the reactions. I think they get the street view, and Shawn and I know a lot of drivers, so we represent a whole different group for them. And I've known Bryant since 2017, almost 10 years now. These guys are great. They're who I refer everybody to for legal stuff. I mean, even if you end up doing something else or going with somebody else, this is who you should check out. And they've just become good friends. They've helped a lot of my friends. So I like doing these for them once in a while. And I asked Shawn, and he was happy to do it as well. So we thought that we'd do one of these. And it's been a few weeks since they put one out. So we're going to jump right in. What Legal Rideshare does, if you guys don't know, as far as this, is every week they put out a podcast. It's at Legal Rideshare on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, like you will be, if you're seeing this, then check them out, give them a sub, because every week they drop these, and leave comments for them. They do love the comments. They'll respond, but also save Legal Rideshare into your phone. It's always a good idea. We're going to jump right in with Jared and Bryant Greening, who's the CEO. They have 3 topics. We'll go through each one. They're all pretty short. And then Shawn and I will have something to say about each one. Let's see what we start with here.
Podcast. Let's go. I'm your host, Jared Hoffa. It is Thursday, April 23rd, and this week, drivers are suing Uber, Airbnb picks up passengers, and Waymo goes on a standstill. Legal Rideshare breaks it down. And from Legal Rideshare, I'm joined by the co-founder and lead attorney, Bryant Greening. Brian, happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, Jared. Great to be back. Doing it a day early. Let's get going. I love it.
Let's get going. Yeah, interesting topics today. We're going to jump right into it. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this first one, especially drivers are suing Uber over deactivations. And this is from Cal Matters, and they reported, quote, Uber has failed to create an appeal system to give drivers due process when they're kicked off the app, violating the California law it carved out that declared app-based drivers independent contractors. Many deactivated drivers report that they struggle to appeal their cases. They say they are initially sent to sites where they appear to be talking to bots, and rarely do they reach people who are empowered to actually help them. This group says that basically, due to Prop 22, it's not delivering on all of its promises. So, Brian, I would love to hear your thoughts on this legally. It sounds like they have some merit here on this in California.
Yeah, so when Prop 22 passed, one of the things that they promised was that there was going to be an appeals process for drivers who have been deactivated. And it was extremely hard fought. That was something that drivers wanted. It was something that was very necessary, given that when a driver's deactivated, it just uproots their life entirely. And when it was passed, that was one of the things about Prop 22 that drivers were actually excited about. And, in a lot of ways, that law didn't help drivers. This was one way that it seemed to. Unfortunately, we're seeing that Uber is not playing by the rules, or at least that's what the organization is alleging, leaving drivers high and dry. So if that is the case, if they're not abiding by the law, they're going to have to, make amends for that. There's going to be damages that need to be paid, perhaps drivers that are reactivated, back pay. So this could be a big problem for Uber financially. I think that, just from a driver perspective on what drivers need, this sort of protection is so necessary, this due process, this ability to fight back on an unfair deactivation, or frankly, any deactivation, whether a driver is validly or invalidly deactivated, they deserve a chance to present their case. And that's what Prop 22 seemingly allowed for. That's what Uber seemingly is not providing. And I really hope that these cases go forward and are successful in securing this right for drivers that they so very clearly need.
Okay, so that's the first one. That was a really short one. Here's my main thing about the Prop 22 one is that was 2020. Like we're 6 years later here, and Prop 22 has had nothing, even Brian mentioned it, nothing but problems. I think that Shawn, you and I talked last night about sexual assaults. That's their big money problem this year. This,
Oh yeah.
I guess I'm curious why this is coming up in 2026, because every year they have a problem with Prop 22 and they are suing the Superior Court for some reason about Prop 22, and it doesn't fix anything. It's the problem is Prop 22 seems very locked, and now it is after the latest Supreme Court ruling. It will be ever locked, and so it seems. Maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems like they're just throwing anything at the wall that maybe, because this should have been brought up in 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25.
Right. Yeah, they're running a little late in to reform this, Steve, but the drivers are clearly getting frustrated and they made a lot of noise. And apparently they found somebody that's willing to take their case and see what's going on. We're fortunate here in Colorado, in the rideshare world, to have, the transparency law that passed for us. And then they set up a drivers organization immediately. And and I've been a little bit critical of it because they're slow, but they're still
Yeah.
kind of getting their legs on, and they're starting to make progress. So if California could do something like that, they might be able to recover this and turn it into something decent.
I also wonder what the problem is. Why, again, we never know, but why is Uber so against this? They got bigger fish to fry. Just make this a thing. Yes, we will look into wrongful deactivations.
Well, I don't think that they really care in the grand scheme of things, because they have a driver problem now, and the driver problem is too many drivers. So if they're not going to make noise and try and defend themselves, well, then that's an easy way to get rid of the problem, and they'll just bring on board new ones.
And I guess we'll talk. You and I can talk about this next week more at length. It's a good one to talk about because I have to assume that part of the problem of the wrongful deactivations is illegals, illegal
Yeah.
account holders, whatever they might be, even people that live here, people that have come here, whatever, but people that are buying illegal accounts. So maybe they don't even want to go through the process and see, well, this isn't even
Correct.
a legal account.
But there are drivers that do want to, because they've got that driver representing group that's fighting for them. So if they can separate the two of those, then let's take care of the drivers that did get deactivated. And as Brian said, even if they did something wrong, they need to have a chance to tell their side of the story.
Yeah. Or at least and at least this too, at least be getting responses. Uber needs to show that they're
Right.
looking into it and not just some stupid auto reply, but something real.
Yep.
But here, let's move into the second one because I don't know. I heard him say the three topics. I don't know what an Airbnb thing is. I do know of one, but let's see what the second one is about.
Yeah.
Is adding car pickups, and this is from Bloomberg, and they reported, quote, Airbnb is offering private car pickups in major markets outside the US, which is its latest move in an ambitious plan to offer hotel-like services in addition to lodging. It is partnering with a UK-based airport transfer company called Welcome Pickups to offer the service to guests traveling to 125 cities across Asia, Europe, Latin America, and so forth. Ride prices will be fixed and determined by Welcome Pickups based on the vehicle type needed to accommodate passengers and bags. And this is according to Welcome Pickups CEO. Users will receive their driver's contact info ahead of time in case they need to get in touch for questions. This is an interesting foray into Airbnb, sort of in the rideshare space. Now, this is not in the US, but I'd be very curious to see if this ends up in the US and what that means for rideshare.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting story, not just because it's giving Airbnb, guests the opportunity to have somebody pick them up at the airport. I think there's something bigger going on here. We're seeing Airbnb partner with different app-based providers. We've seen this already with Instacart. Airbnb has made it easier for guests at their residences to order groceries, for instance. And by having this collaboration of app-based groups within one single app, I think is really showing how far the app community has come. I think it's really smart for them to use each other to push business to one another, and it's an opportunity for all of these companies to grow. You can imagine in the United States if Uber and Airbnb were to partner up, and just through the Airbnb app, you'd be able to request your ride from the airport and get to your residence, and then all of a sudden the fridge was stocked with the groceries that you ordered for Instacart. It becomes a one-stop shop. It becomes seamless for the user. It's a way where all these companies can generate income, and all of these different app workers will be able to have their hand in all these different app companies. So I just think it's really interesting what we're seeing, and it's Airbnb really being on the forefront of trying to make, be the center of this hub in a lot of ways. Not having to control everything themselves, but bringing on other contractors to make the experience better for its users, to offer more options. And hopefully it's good for both customers of the app, workers of the app, and I would imagine Airbnb is going to be making more money as well. So it seems like it could really just be a win for everybody.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't, that they didn't lean on Uber for this, but they're definitely taking it out of Uber playbook, just like you said, as far as make it all integrated, one-stop shop. And Uber's been talking about that. They've obviously Uber touts themselves as a technology company, not a transportation company. And now Airbnb is saying, hey, we're going to do more than just, allow you to book, rooms or houses or hotels. Yeah, I'm very curious to see how this develops. I think they're testing in other markets, and then who knows? I mean, the way things are moving so quick, maybe it becomes a Waymo Airbnb combo, where it's autonomous vehicle picks you up at the airport, takes you to the Airbnb. I don't know, but I do think this is interesting, and you made a good point there. The market is growing, it's maturing, and now they're starting to learn how to integrate stuff into more than just point A to point B. It's really now what are all the ways that we can pretty much capitalize on a person the moment we can get them. And that's really what they're doing here.
Well, and I just one more thing here. I
Yeah.
think that international travelers, it makes a ton of sense. Like my family was in Paris not too long ago, and we had a cab driver who didn't speak any English at all, and we don't speak French, and it made the transportation from the airport very difficult. And frankly, I thought that we got overcharged, we got driven around a little bit when that was happening. I don't think that I'm the first person to think that that may have happened in a situation with a driver where I'm the foreigner, and I don't know my way around. To integrate transportation to and from an airport in a place where you're not familiar with, where you don't speak the language, it makes things far less complicated. It takes out some of the guesswork in terms of, are you being driven around, or are you getting point A to point B? You know how much it's going to cost and how much it should cost. So I just think that this could really be of benefit to international travelers who might feel out of place in the transportation sector, in the time between the airport and their place of residence during their stay.
All right, Shawn, you can lead on this one, man, because I I don't know.
Well, so and I think they hit on a lot of the really good points with it, particularly, that was immediately, why didn't they pair up with Uber? Obviously, I mean, I guess Uber didn't want to. Uber wants to be, whatever Uber's being, and so if they're not leading the march, that so I could see where that they may have had a conversation but didn't develop. The other piece might be because over in the UK they have a lot of, they're not driver unions per se. They've got a different term, but they've got associations and things like that. So maybe it makes a better entry point. And I think the whole Waymo thing, that's never, I mean, they're finally just kind of starting to go over, what I think they're going to be doing.
When he said that, I was actually thinking, okay, Jared, maybe in 100 years or 50 years, but
Right.
like dude,
Yeah.
let's get Waymo's working first before we're talking about that.
Right. I mean, the bottom line is that they're going to get picked up at the airport by their EVTOL and then dropped off over to their new location, not a Waymo anyway.
Yeah.
But the one thing is that Bryant, put a really interesting. He put it from the passenger standpoint perspective on it. So which was kind of cool seeing that. But I'm also a little disappointed we didn't get the legal, reasoning for why he thought it'd be a good idea. I think, as a guy that's not an attorney, nor do I play one on television, that they're shifting a lot of liability by sending it out third party, with Airbnb doing that and just keeping that distance there. So I think it's a great relationship and a great opportunity, though.
I think it's a great relationship if I think of it different. I don't just think opening the Uber app or somehow ahead of time you're going to you're going to have an Uber ride almost like a person standing there with a sign with your name, because
Right.
I think the Airbnb owner needs to get to know a Uber driver and use them to get, because some of those places are very hard to find too. I've been all over Europe
Right.
working production. It's not like
Yeah.
everything's so easy. And yes, a lot of these drivers know the city, but then I heard, they were talking about Instacart. Well, Instacart can serve you at Airbnb now. Well, Instacart's always been able to serve you at an Airbnb. If you have an Instacart
Right.
account, you can get served wherever you are. So
Right.
I'm more about
Or
Prepped, which we've talked about, which is owned
yeah.
by Dumpling, which is where the fridge
Yeah.
gets stocked by somebody who works with the Airbnb. So why
Right.
can't that be built into something like Prepped Vacations, where they're now going to offer the ride share and the groceries and whatever you might need through your stay?
Yeah.
And I think
And
I guess
again,
I'm saying it needs to be a higher. I don't think I don't think Uber's a luxury service anymore. It charges like one, but it isn't one.
right.
And I think that like a Prep tier, like what they do is they give you a luxury service.
Well, and again, that's kind of what it seems like that Airbnbs want to do, is kind of the car service type thing, not really the, the ride share component completely with it. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I didn't know also, as much travel as I've done, I didn't know it was such a hard thing to get a Uber to wherever you're going. I've never had a problem wherever I go getting to where I'm going. So to me, it just seems like, again, I am very prone to Uber PR marketing scam. Like, I just think everything's a scam when they do it. Like this to
Yeah.
me is like, yeah, it's been available since Uber was around. So,
Well,
I
but they're
guess
not teaming up with Uber, so that's
I mean, maybe
what makes it
if there's a
interesting.
long-term Airbnb Uber thing coming, I guarantee that's going to affect all of our Airbnb prices too.
Well, that's a great point. But and who else could do it right now, globally?
Yeah.
Uber. They're the
No,
only one.
nobody. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So we move on to the third topic here. Let's see what we got going with this one now.
Story today is just for you, Bryant. You bring this up all the time about Waymo not being ready. Well, it looks like it really isn't, and this time Waymo has brought traffic to a standstill. And this is from the street, and they reported, quote, last December, the autonomous ride-hailing company Waymo was forced to temporarily suspend service in San Francisco for one day after a blackout left the robotic vehicles dead and unable to navigate the city. I believe we talked about this. There's a ton of footage on it. This happened last year. At the time, Waymo told the street that the vehicles can navigate intersections where the traffic signal is operable. Obviously, despite videos showing the opposite, we saw those. However, they said this was fixed. But over the weekend, a new video emerged of the autonomous vehicles struggling with a similar situation. This time it was in Atlanta, Georgia. So over the weekend, a video from Atlanta went viral showing a group of three Waymos completely blocking traffic in one direction of the street. Each stopped at a white line with a broken traffic light flashing red. The video shows drivers stuck behind cars as people exit their vehicles and walk around the intersection filming the chaos. So, Brian, it looks like Waymo said, we fixed this. It's not going to happen again. And obviously it happened again.
Here we are.
There we
Deja
are.
vu all over again. This is not shocking to me. We've seen these vehicles and the technology fail time and time again. I've said it once, I'll say it again. I think that this is the future. I think we're all going to be in autonomous vehicles, at some point in the future. However, we're just not there yet. The technology is failing. It's causing issues for passengers. It's causing issues for communities. The fact that the streets are blocked, like, yeah, it's funny. You can take a video of it and post it online, but that could have caused a real problem. If an ambulance needed to get through, if there was an emergency, even just a traffic jam, even if you just had some place to go and you couldn't get through the intersection because of these vehicles, that creates an issue for our community. And the vehicles need to be better. The technology needs to be better. As governments and local officials allow these cars to go on the city streets. They need to demand better. They need to demand accountability. And I hope in the cities that we live in, I hope that for the sake of the rest of the country, that politicians step up and take control and put ordinances and laws in place that hold companies accountable, demand that certain technology is ready, and have repercussions if it's not. So it's a matter of time before something very serious happens. I'm hopeful it doesn't, but it just seems like we're on that path because the technology is being deployed before it's quote unquote perfect, like they say it is.
Yeah, and you bring up a very good point. It's kind of funny now, and there's videos of it. It could have been a very serious issue. I think the other thing that's going to be very interesting about all of this tech, which we aren't going to see yet, is depreciation. Technology depreciates over time, just from wear and tear, the weather. Obviously, Waymos are looking to come to Chicago, and they're going to be in other cold cities, and so it's going to get beat up, and it's going to be I'm very curious to see what happens with these Waymos then. If they're having issues already out of the gate where they're sort of struggling and they're stopping and the navigation isn't working, well, what happens in 2 years from now when these cars, when some of them aren't serviced or their sensors don't work as well? Are we going to start to see catastrophic events? I hope not, but it's just too early to tell any of this stuff. And I'm sure in a year from now we'll be talking again about this and saying, remember a year ago? So it's just very interesting to me. And you're right about, the tech isn't ready. They're kind of forcing on the streets. I just hope nothing bad happens, honestly.
Yeah, well, just to your point, remember a year ago? Well, a year ago, we were having the same conversation. So
Yeah.
you would think that the technology itself would be getting better, that they would be updating the features, that they would be learning from their past mistakes. But if we're still having the same issues, it's like the companies either aren't learning or the technology just isn't ready. Maybe both. But if a year from now we're having the same conversation, I don't understand what we're doing here because the technology is supposed to improve city by city. They're not supposed to be deploying the same vehicles with the same issues and the same bugs. They're supposed to be learning, and it just doesn't seem like that's happening.
Yeah, and I think that is the issue, and I think at some point we're going to uncover it. Likely probably Bloomberg. They do a good job at that. Where something's going to come out, and it's going to tell us either the companies are negligent or the tech's not there. We're not seeing it yet, but there's obvious indicators that that's the thing. Just like you said, it might be both. So we will see. As I always like to say, time will tell. But that is the stories for this week. Brian, I'll give you the final say before we head into the weekend.
Yeah, we always remind everybody that legal rideshare is available should you find yourself injured in a rideshare accident. We help rideshare drivers, passengers, victims, anybody who's injured. Please do not hesitate to contact us. The cases do not get better with time. We want to set a solid foundation for your case, talk to witnesses, gather evidence. All of our contact information is on our website, legalrideshare.com. And as I said, time is of the essence, and we're standing by ready to help.
All right. So, yeah, there's some stuff to talk about here. First of all, for those of you that don't know, Shawn and I are not fans of Waymo, and we know a lot about it too.
Yeah.
So, Shawn
Right.
talks about it on his podcast. I talk about it on mine. And on Thursdays, we get together and talk about this stuff too. I've had Bryant on several times, and we've talked a lot of Waymo. And when he's on the podcast, he's been very forthright to get into the deeper stuff. Like this is like surface level stuff. And it doesn't mean that he's not willing because he has with me, but they're talking about the blackout. They're talking about there were 3 Waymos in an intersection, and like that was news from last week. Well, here's the reality. That's news every day. Every single day this happens. I mean, they've hit a kid. There's been so many more incidents they've never had a ticket. They can't get ticketed because they don't have drivers, and they do a lot of bad things. They've been at fault for many of the accidents. They can't get. I mean, so they are above the law. They are outside of the law, which I think these guys talking about this. And the other thing that really caught my ear on this was, they're saying we'll be back here in a year. Well, 2018 is when the Waymo hit the biker in Arizona. So we've been here for 9 years.
Yep.
And nothing's changed. Waymo has not made leaps and bounds. I think that Jared hit on something important too, the depreciation of the parts, because yes,
The
as things get
vehicles.
cheaper, but also as things get cheaper, like a LiDAR or something, we haven't really seen that. That LiDAR has been about the same price, but eventually it will. I mean, I would look at like back in the day, Shawn, and some of the people watching won't know this, but like TVs used to cost like $1,000. Now you can go get them for like $50 for like a 70-inch on your wall.
Right.
You know, like, and they were 1,000 pounds before. So yes, things
I
do.
was,
Things
Yeah.
do change in price. Things like that change. But right now, where we're at, these parts aren't changing. We're not seeing it go down 5,000. But also, I keep saying over and over, and I know Bryant fully agrees with me. He said the same thing. They need to be testing in a city with no people, a made up
Right.
little city that they do themselves, and do testing without live people around. They just don't work. That is Bryant said it. We've said it, that they don't work. They should not be anywhere.
Nope. Anywhere near people, they should not be near them. And to reinforce the point about the depreciation, I mean, a lot of that technology they're using is old technology, so it's already hit the floor on its, is going low in prices. I mean, they're running around $200,000 Jags, which is ridiculous to begin with, so they can reduce their costs from that standpoint. But yeah, there's only so much that can be done with it.
I always wondered about the Jag thing too, if that was like because like we were talking about it just last night about how Waymo gets its on the blue vans in Denver, they're getting promoted, but we're not really expecting
Right.
them to be autonomous in Denver. They're just promoting, and they have a bunch of cameras going. I think that part of it with using the iPace was maybe it was advertising for the company. You know, like
Well,
the fact that
and
the
all the
shell
data
of the body
collection
is that, but
and all the
yeah.
data collection they're doing, because they're filming in a public environment. So I mean, what point is all the privacy stuff going to start coming into it with all these companies? Be interesting to see what Bryant had to say about that, even with it.
Yeah, I mean, like you and I could go on for hours about Waymo, and Bryant could
Yep.
join us. I know that Bryant would have dove if he had the time. He would have dove in for hours on that because there's a lot.
Right.
He knows all of it. But too, by the way, if anybody's watching and curious, Bryant is as aware as we are about all of the Waymo problems,
Yes.
and he's definitely he's like us. When it's ready, you can start putting some in. You're
Right.
not just going to flip the script and have no drivers and just Waymo fleet, but you can start putting them in. But they're not ready. Every time
Right.
we try something, they don't work. They're still not fixed around buses. A person got in the back of one. How did it get by a $70,000 LiDAR?
Right.
I mean, a person crawled into the back and it didn't even see him. It's like a sonar, guys.
Somebody hijacked one after a ride. It was a different person. She gets in and changed the destination.
If you leave the door open, they have to send a DoorDasher to shut it. I mean, it's just this is just nothing more than a joke. It's just a joke. And autonomous will be here one day. I do agree. I don't know if it'll ever be or when it'll be 100% of the vehicles. I don't know if it ever will, but I do know that we're not there. I do know that when it comes to scaling, especially if you leave the California markets out of it, which, by the way, California markets hate Waymos. San Francisco, LA, they hate them. Arizona hates them. Those are the only three markets that they're really in. They have like a handful in like Denver, Philly, Pittsburgh. They're trying out these other Atlanta markets, but they're not really there. And so I don't know. I don't think we're anywhere close. I honestly think that it is time that the book gets thrown at Waymo. And I know they have Google money. I know they have quadrillions of dollars. But at the same time, I think it's time that somehow it goes beyond money and some kind of regulatory thing steps in and says, no more. You guys can't do this anymore.
Well, you made a really good point, Steve, is that the cities where they are running autonomously and they've been running the longest, they hate them. So you know what? Why don't we just do a mass deploy and then everybody will hate them? Then we'll have an uprising and set this back to where it belongs at the beginning. So I don't know. I mean, we don't want to risk any human lives, obviously, which that's what's going to continue to happen as it continues to grow.
Yeah, but I am sick of hearing that they are safer than human drivers because, to be honest, the scale of which they're out there on the roads, that alone makes it so you really can never tell. But even if like you're trying to pay attention in your own city, there's not enough out there. And if there were, I think that we would see, again, out of 212 accidents in Arizona in an 18-month period, 73 of them were the fault of Waymo. It's not half, but that's pretty damn close. When you're going to scale, it's actually pretty bad.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know, guys. Listen, if you ever need to, and I know that he said if you're hurt, but any reason you get in any kind of, you're in any kind of issue with gig work, call Legal Rideshare. LegalRideshare.com. Their phone numbers up on the website. You can book a free consultation on the website, but you can make that call. Like that should be your first call. I know everybody wants to call Uber, they want to do this, but call them first. It is the first line of, it should be your first line of defense. They might even place you with a lawyer in your city, but they're also licensed to handle cases across the country. So they have been doing this the longest. You might see rideshare companies or lawyers in your area now, but it's not the same thing. These guys have been doing it 10 years. The others are just following suit now. And so my first call will be to Legal Rideshare if and when I ever were to need it, knock wood. So again, guys, and then give them a follow over at Legal Rideshare. And who knows, maybe we'll be back to do another one of these. So yeah, check them out, guys, and we'll see you next week. Peace, everybody.